As Aram turns back, she is startled to see the woman smiling at her, and she is revealed to be Tantri. Hesitantly, she asks for her name to check the registration, but Tantri remains silent. Uneasy, Aram steps toward the cabinet, but Tantri continues staring at her, drool slowly dripping from her mouth. Gathering her courage, Aram approaches and gently wipes Tantri's mouth, but Tantri touches Aram's stomach, causing her to freeze in fear. Then, she calls Aram's name, and the entire room is plunged into darkness. Terrified, Aram takes out her phone and quickly turns on the flashlight, only to find Tantri has vanished. But as she attempts to leave, the door slams shut. Panicked, she rushes to the window, but it too is forcefully closed. And then, something crashes to the floor, breaking the silence. Aram fearfully scans the room and sees no one, but then she hears a sound and watches Tantri banging her head against a wall. She turns to Aram and suddenly vanishes. Trembling, Aram looks around and, realizing Tantri is gone, tries to stand up, but her legs feel weak. Struggling, she finally reaches the light switch, and as the room illuminates, she exhales in relief. But Tantri, sitting on top of her, grabs her face, causing Aram to fall back in terror. Just then, Tito rushes in, calms her down, and asks what's wrong. The next day, while cleaning the hydrotherapy room, Moming gets injured. Scared, he tells Heru that this is a sign they need to perform a ritual before tearing everything down. Heru dismisses the idea, but Moming insists he doesn't want to get involved and tells him to go ahead if he wants to continue. That night, Heru is on his way to pick someone up when he attempts to overtake a truck but fails. Frustrated, he tries again, but suddenly, he sees Tantri standing in the middle of the road. Determined to get ahead, Heru finally overtakes the truck and gets into a heated argument with the driver. But a bus appears from the opposite direction, causing Heru to crash into a truck carrying iron rods, leading to his tragic death. The next day, Pika approaches Aram and asks what's wrong, to which Aram, overwhelmed with guilt, confesses that the night before Heru died, he grabbed her bottom. She admits that in that moment, she wished him dead, and now he is. Pika embraces, trying to comfort her, but Aram, still shaken, says that she can't do this anymore, to which Pika suggests that they move to a different place. Meanwhile, Ada asks Moming if he can fix the hole in the hydrotherapy room, but he refuses, saying he's done. He explains that the lawnmower is broken, the generator isn't working, and Dr. Tito wants to demolish the hydrotherapy room. When Ada asks if he can get someone else to do it, Moming tells her he already tried, but no one is willing to go, let alone tear it down. He then asks, how about he board up the room so that no one can see it? Moming builds a wall where the door once was, but just as he is leaving, the light suddenly goes out. He switches on the generator, watching as it hums to life. Satisfied, he turns to leave, but the generator sputters and dies. Scared, he tries to turn it on, but it doesn't happen. Just then, he hears footsteps, and when he turns on his phone's flashlight, he sees a woman walking around. Thinking it's Ada, he cautiously follows, warning her not to play around. However, when he reaches the ward, there's no one there. Suddenly, he hears a humming voice coming from another ward, and as he steps inside, the sound of footsteps echoes through the empty space. In a flashback, he greets Tantri, and when she asks how he recognized her, he says because of her wooden clogs. As he turns around, we see Tantri climbing the wall, and she crawls across the ceiling, passing right over him. She then suddenly drops down, startling him, and when he looks down, he gets terrified seeing her. Panicked, he flees the premises, running blindly until he reaches a tree spanning a river. With no other option, he carefully steps onto it, trying to maintain his balance. But as he moves forward, his footing slips, and he barely manages to hang on. As he struggles to climb back, Tantri emerges from the water and pulls him into the river. Moming returns to the clinic and tells Ada that he wants to tell her something, but she walks away without responding. Confused, he follows her, but she is nowhere to be found. Suddenly, Tantri appears, causing him to fall. A lawnmower runs over him, and it's revealed that Tantri is controlling it. She holds the machine steady until he dies, and then she silently leaves. That night, While they are sleeping, Pika starts choking and she suddenly wakes up gasping. Scared, she sits on her bed and to her shock, sees Aram also gasping. She quickly goes to her and tries to wake her up. And after a while, Aram wakes up scared. She quickly sits up and hugs Pika tightly, and then asks Pika if she remembers the dental patient. She tells her that she was the one holding Pika down. She says she saw her crawling toward her bed, and then she climbed onto it. Her tongue was long, and she was drooling. She continues that she knew I was looking at her. That's why she got down from her bed. Then, she climbed onto my bed, crawled on top of me, and started licking me with her long tongue. She then squatted on me and played with my hair. Aram says she is not human. But just then, someone knocks on the door, and Jiki informs them that Moming is no more. Later, at the clinic, Pika overhears Ringo pressing Etta for the truth, warning that if she stays silent, he can't guarantee her safety. Seeing Ada's discomfort, Pika steps in, interrupting the conversation, prompting Ringo to leave in frustration. Pika then offers her condolences for the loss of Ada's husband and asks if Ringo had threatened her, but Ada denies it. Pika presses further, asking what's really going on, but Ada remains silent. Frustrated, Pika stands up, pointing out that Haru died just the other day. Later, when Pika returns to their boarding house, she insists that Begas should be responsible for all of this. She then sits beside Ada and asks where Begas is now. After a brief hesitation, Ada finally admits that Begas should indeed be held accountable. Later, when Pika returns to their boarding house, she sees Dimas leaving. Confused, she asks Aram what's going on, saying that if she doesn't tell her, how is she supposed to help? Aram hesitates before revealing that she was assaulted at the clinic. Shocked, Pika asks if she just told Dimas about it, and Aram nods. Pika then asks what he said, and Arum, holding back tears, replies that he called her promiscuous. Meanwhile, on his way back home, Dimas stops when he sees Tantri standing by the roadside. Noticing she is alone, he asks where she is heading, to which Tantri calmly replies that she is going home. Dimas offers to give her a ride, saying it's late and she shouldn't be out alone. He then asks which way her home is, and Tantri raises her hand, pointing in a direction. Pika asks Aram who assaulted her, but before Aram can respond, Pika's phone rings. She steps aside to take the call, and when Aram hears Dimas's name, she immediately approaches Pika, asking what happened. It is then revealed that Tantri had led Dimas to a strange place, causing him to stop the bike. However, Tantri manipulated his mind, making him believe he was on a bridge. Tantri then wrapped her arms around his waist, and when he asked if they were going straight ahead, she agreed. Under her influence, he unknowingly accelerated and drove the bike off a cliff. Next, we see Dimas in the intensive care unit, with his mom crying beside him. When she comes out, she tells Pika that Dimas had said he was going to meet his friend who was training at Lembayung Clinic. She says she assumed he must have gone to visit her, and then requests Pika to pray for Dimas before leaving. As she watches her go, Arum confronts her, asking how his mom could have called her. Pika hesitates, and before she can answer, Aram turns and walks away. Later, Aram tells Pika that she wants to quit her training and has already handed in her notice. Pika tries to stop her, but Aram, frustrated, asks why she even wants to train with her anyway, just so she can see Dimas and get back together with him. Pika tries to stop her, urging her to listen, but Aram, enraged, yells, "Did Dimas make her drink, force himself on her, get her pregnant, and then ask her to have an abortion instead of taking responsibility?" Shocked, Pika asks if Dimas forced himself on her too, to which Aram says you are such a saint before turning to leave. But Pika stops her, saying the reason she broke up with him was because she refused to sleep with him, and that was before she even wore the hijab. Aram turns, sneering that she only wears it to cover up her sins, and then she collapses. The next day, Pika asks Tito about Aram, and he says she's fine. He then mentions reading Aram's resignation letter, and reiterates that if someone doesn't like it here, they're free to leave. As he is leaving, Pika stops him to ask if Begas is really the clinic's owner. Tito questions why she's asking, and she points out that Begas is never around during incidents. Tito reveals that he owns the clinic. He explains that he put Begas's picture up to observe his staff's behavior, as past employees, including doctors, acted inappropriately before the clinic closed. Pika then asks who Vegas is, and Tito says he was his family's personal driver. Pika meets Ada, who tells her she's returning to her hometown. As Ada is leaving, Pika stops her and hands her Moming's locket. Ada recalls Moming saying that if he couldn't apologize in person, he would do so through the locket. She opens it, reads the note, but then quickly throws it away and leaves. Later, Pika searches for cases of suicide by hanging in Lembayung, but finds no results. She then remembers seeing the word Tan in the note. Curious, she looks it up and discovers information about Tantri. Shocked, she finds a picture of Tantri with Ringo, but only then does she realize that Ringo is watching her from outside, prompting her to leave immediately. The next day, while Ringo is away from his office, Pika checks his bag and finds newspaper clippings about the obstetrician's death at Lembayung Clinic. As she digs deeper, she discovers a photo album and is shocked to find hair from multiple women, including Aram's. When Ringo returns, he takes out his phone from his bag and quickly realizes that the album is missing. Meanwhile, Pika hides behind a door and Ringo leaves the room while talking on the phone. Pika quickly leaves the office but bumps into Tito, who asks her what's wrong. She shows him Ringo's album, but he asks why she stole his belongings. Just then, she spots Ringo approaching and says she's in danger, but when Tito stops her, she pleads with him to trust her. He takes her away from the clinic, where she tells him she suspects Ringo is involved in Tantri's death. Tito says it's been a long time since anyone mentioned Tantri's name, yet he still feels her presence. He explains that Tantri was an obstetrician at Lembayung, until one day, she was found dead in the hydrotherapy room. Pika realizes this means the rumors were true, to which Tito nods, adding that's why the clinic was shut down after the incident. He warns her that things are getting dangerous, and insists they need to move Aram before Ringo finds her. They move Aram to Ada's house, and Pika thanks Tito for his help. Later, in her dreams, Arum sees Tantri desperately digging the ground, and as she steps closer, she suddenly hears a woman singing. Perplexed, she looks around and realizes it's Ada, singing the song for Tantri. Just then, Aram sees that Tantri has dug a massive pit in the ground, and when she bends down to offer her hand to pull her out, Tantri suddenly grabs her wrist and asks, "Why are you scared?" before pulling her inside. When Pika wakes up, she realizes that Aram is not in bed. Worried, she begins searching for her, only to hear whispers coming from behind the hydrotherapy room door. As she gets closer, she hears Aram murmuring, "It wasn't my fault, he should have died." Pika quickly calls Tito, urgently asking for his help and telling him to come to the clinic immediately. As she disconnects the call, she notices an opening in the ceiling. Without hesitation, she grabs a ladder, climbs up, and jumps into the hydrotherapy room. And during this time, Tito also reaches the clinic. Pika cautiously approaches Aram, while Tito falls while climbing the stairs. Aram is revealed to be possessed, repeatedly muttering the same words. Desperate, Pika calls out to her, causing Aram to stop and turn to face her. But without a word, Aram then lies down in the bathtub. Terrified, Pika cautiously approaches Aram, unsure of what to do. But Aram opens her eyes and pulls Pika into the bathtub. Aram then rises out of the water, before suddenly plunging back in. Aram forces Pika underwater, trying to drown her. When Pika finally struggles free, she gasps for air and looks around, only to realize that Aram is nowhere to be seen, and the room now appears to be in pristine condition. Scared and confused, Pika quickly rushes out of the room, only to see Tito adding a few drops of liquid into a glass. Just then, Tantri enters the room and Tito hands her the glass, and without hesitation, Tantri drinks it. Next, Pika watches in shock as Tito takes advantage of Tantri's unconscious state, and afterward, he threatens her, warning that if she tells anyone, he will kill her and her family. Later, when Tantri is on the phone, Tito drags her into the hydrotherapy room, reminding her that he had warned her not to tell anyone. Pika watches in horror as Tito attempts to drown Tantri in one of the bathtubs. Next, to stage it as a suicide, Tito forces Heru and Moming to hang Tantri, and believing her to be dead, they leave her there. However, after some time, Tantri regains consciousness, and when Ada finds her, she is alive, but Tito kills her by snapping her neck. Pika finds herself once again on the verge of drowning, but Tito knocks Aram unconscious and asks Pika if she's okay, to which she responds she is fine and will take care of Aram. As Pika carries Aram away, Aram confesses that she had used the room to get an abortion. She then collapses due to weakness and then reveals that it was Tito who had harassed her. Pika urgently tells Aram they need to get out of there and helps her to her feet, but Aram, too weak to continue, collapses again. Just then, Tito grabs Aram and says he can see she's figured it out. He then stands up and approaches Pika, causing her to retreat in fear as he warns her not to tell anyone. Pika attempts to flee, but he catches her and pins her against a wall, and then he stabs a scalpel into her hand. He tells her to stop crying, but Ringo suddenly attacks him and strangles Tito with an IV line, tightening it until he becomes unconscious. Ringo rushes to check on Pika, who apologizes to him, but he reassures her, revealing that Tantri was his fiancée. She died during her pregnancy, but he's not the father of the child. He had a suspicion that it was someone from the clinic, but he never dared to speak up. Ringo admits he was wrong for calling the police because Tito was clever enough to figure it out. Pika reveals to him that Tantri was killed in the hydrotherapy room and is now haunting them. She insists they must demolish the room to let Tantri find peace. Tito suddenly stands up. Before Pika can warn Ringo, Tito stabs him with a scalpel. As Ringo collapses, Tito reveals that Tantri was pregnant with his child, and then he stabs Ringo again, finishing him off. Meanwhile, Pika takes Aram away and hides in an abandoned building, but Tito follows them. He sits down, lights a cigarette, and says, "You and my dad are the same." He goes on to explain how his dad played around with his mother, even though she was seriously ill. Tito says he should have killed him years ago, so his mother wouldn't have to suffer. And one day, he poisoned his father's drink, finally ending his life. He then declares that maybe this is the right time for him to kill everyone. He eventually finds Aram, and when Pika tries to attack, he stops and stabs her before hurling her. He approaches her, telling her to run, and during this, we see that Ringo is still alive. Tito squats over Pika, about to kill her, but Ada stabs him with a knife, saying that's enough, before finally finishing him off. Ada goes to check on Aram, who asks if she knows Tantri. Ada, surprised, asks how she knows about Tantri, and in response, Aram rubs her nose against Ada's, revealing Tantri sitting in front of her. This causes Ada to break into tears as she whispers, "I miss you." But suddenly, Tito grabs Ada and slashes her throat, leaving Aram in shock. He then approaches Pika to finish her off, but Tantri's spirit enters Aram and possesses her. Aram grabs a nail gun, and as Tito turns, she fires nails into him, causing him to fall. She then jumps on top of him, squats over him, and begins stabbing him with a syringe. Meanwhile, Ringo demolishes the room, and Pika watches in horror as Tantri gouges out Tito's eye and throws it away. As Tantri is about to stab the syringe into his other eye, Pika calls out to her, causing her to stop. Pika tells her, that's enough, saying she has shown her everything and promises that all of them will give her the peace she seeks. Hearing Pika's words, Tantri vanishes from the scene, leaving Aram behind. Next, Ayu visits Tito in jail and says, "I told you I would stay with you." In a flashback, it is revealed that she had seen Tantri in the hospital and had warned him about the danger. However, it is then revealed that she herself is possessed by Tantri, and the movie ends here. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the chills, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a scare. Until next time, stay spooky.